Welcome to Just a Cup on Believe. I am Bryan Fetzer, your host, and this is an organic conversation. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward, with some of the best athletes, coaches, and sports performance people in the world. And today is really no difference. Think about this, for example. If you're at an elite level in one sport, and then you go, you know what? I'm just going to become an Olympian in another. Well, that's kind of the conversation we're going to have today. Kristen Siermachesky, and I know I almost screwed that up again. But Kristen is an Olympic rower from Canada who started off as a Division I hockey player, and we're gonna dive all into that. And she's coaching at UNC. We're just Kristen. There's so much to unpack with this, and I think I don't even know how to even describe when I first found out about you, and I'm going, hold on. Division I hockey and rowing. The only thing that's even close is that the water was frozen. Now it's unfrozen.
It's still water in some way, shape, or form. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to share my story. And I don't even know where to start because it starts pretty young, but I can just blow through it for you.
Well, hockey. Now, I think the unique thing, or I think it's a special thing, is both of your parents were athletes. I mean, mom college track and field athlete, dad kind of a stud.
Like he always describes that he was a high jumper, so like this close to the Olympics. So definitely living out his dream through me now, which is super amazing. But yes, I'm very fortunate to be born into a family where like they've taught me so many attributes to being a high level athlete, but also just like a well-rounded human. And those are, I got that from my parents. I'm really lucky.
That's awesome. Let's go to the hockey part first, and then we'll dive into the becoming an Olympic rower. Okay, you go to Syracuse, play hockey. You're from Canada.
Yeah. So if you even go before Syracuse,
okay,
I'm from a super small town in Northern Ontario, Canada. No girls hockey to start. So I'm playing with the boys, and my goal is to get a Division I scholarship to a big school. And in order to do that, I need to play girls hockey. I can't get recruited with the boys. So there kind of starts some small things in my hometown. And then I was like, I need to either move or drive 2 hours to practice every day to get seen. Well, my trooper of a father would put me in the car 4 times a week, and we'd drive 2 hours to practice every week. It was crazy. And then in grade 10, I had made the decision. Well, I told my parents that I really, really, really wanted to do this thing. And in order to do that, I need to move to Toronto area. So much more populated city in Ontario. And of course, my mom was like, I'm not letting my baby go. And my dad was like, yeah, let's do it. So there was a lot of hard conversations at a really young age. Like, if I want to do this thing, I need to also start by doing something other people don't normally do.
Right.
So,
I think that when you start saying that, I think people kind of underestimate the sacrifice that parents do for the betterment of their children. I think that speaks volumes of commitment per se.
And honestly, like, again, very lucky that my mom has always played like devil's advocate. She's like, well, what if plan A doesn't work out? What's plan B? And in my head, I'm like, I'm going to make plan A work. I don't need a plan B. But like, she's taught me that I always do need a plan B. You just don't need to fully focus on it. So, there's always been a really cool dynamic between like my mom being the kind of, I don't know, Kristen, and my dad being like, I'll pack up and go. Let's do it. So I've been very, very lucky. So I moved to Stony Creek. I play midget AA there with girls, and then junior. So my high school's there. And I'm going to like a regular public school. I'm living with a wonderful family that took me in as a billet. So just like a 5th daughter, because there was already 4 of them there. So like, yeah, I learned how to, do laundry, cook, live on my own, drive myself around, do all these things that I probably wouldn't have done to the same extent at home. So that was a really cool experience. And of course, the hockey part was like, it was the highest level I could be at the time.
Well,
So
I've heard that in Canada, I mean, I don't say that that's commonplace, but kids moving and going to someplace and living with somebody is a lot more common than what we might think in the United States,
For sure.
specifically hockey, because of what you just said. Small town,
Yeah. And luckily, there's been a lot more opportunities, especially for females now.
Right.
They're like, you can get seen from a smaller town and because they'll go to bigger tournaments or something like that. But at the time, it just felt like what I needed to do. And a couple people had done it before, but a lot of guys, billeting or going to play in the O or whatever they want to say, which is sweet. But I was like, I want to do the same thing. So we did it. And the best part was as soon as the hockey season was done, I would move back home from May to summertime. And I would go back home to my high school at home. So I really had like the best of all the worlds, but like that didn't come easily. Had to have so many different friend groups, which was so fun, but just a lot of moving parts before I even got to Syracuse.
Dull would not be the word that I would use to describe your experience in high school years.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. So that was really cool. So it was in grade 10 around Christmas time, I committed to Syracuse. So I was very young when I kind of knew where I was going to be going. But that excited me because it was like, okay, I'd achieved something. I'd achieved what I wanted to achieve, but now I have to like maintain that fitness, maintain all those hockey things that had to be in order to get there. So then I go to Syracuse and I'm like, I'm not a star by any means. And I can say that like 100% openly, but I'm a grinder. Okay. I'm a stay-at-home defenseman. I'll protect the house all day long. I know my job. And like freshman year was hard because I didn't play a ton, but I chose Syracuse because I wanted to play. It was like, I was like, I think this is a place where I'm going to have a spot. This is going to be great. And by my sophomore year, I ended up like really finding that spot and kind of what my job was. And, like we all go through being okay with not being the star, even if you were in your small town at one point.
That's a tough it's a tough situation for a lot of individuals because the reality of it is when you go to college, almost everybody was the star wherever they were, and you've got to change hats. And those that had the most success can pivot and say, I'm going to be a role player for now. I might become the star.
Yeah.
But it's not this flip of a switch. I was, now I am.
For sure. Yeah. So that's.
Yeah. Did you ever do rowing or do you ever anything other than hockey growing up?
Well, my parents really wanted me to run track, which I ended up getting. I actually have two state championships, or I guess it would be called state championships, but I have two awesome medals from throwing discus and running the 800. So at one point, great combination. So at one point, my parents were like track, and I was like hockey. And then I played all the sports in high school. I really did, and I loved that. My mom was on me about being a well-rounded athlete, person, all these things. But then when it did come down to choosing a sport, I obviously chose hockey. And no, rowing was not even like anywhere close to on my mind. That was one sport I had never tried.
Okay. So we're going to fast forward a little bit. Yeah. You're done as an athlete playing hockey. Mm-hmm. How did rowing even come about?
Well, when I did graduate from Syracuse, it was a very weird time. It was 2021. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go play pro in Europe. I had like things in the works and I was excited about it, but I think I was more excited about the traveling part than the hockey. And I love hockey, but I feel like I had kind of accomplished what hockey had for me and what I had for hockey at the time. So I wasn't crazy about going overseas, but I was like more excited about the travel. So I was just like, maybe I just want to get a master's degree somewhere. I've always been like, I'm super into school. I love to keep learning. So I started doing my research on sport administration programs. And I found the University of North Carolina has like one of the best master's programs in the country. So I applied. I'm like, they only let 9 kids in. So who knows? If I get in, I'll go. If I don't, I'll go to Europe. Like,
Right.
what? That's not too bad. And then I get in, I get a call for the program and I get in. And I'm like, okay, I'm moving to North Carolina, mom and dad. And so of course they're like fully supportive. But I had this like pit in my stomach about not being done being an athlete. Like, I'm not done. What am I going to do? No, there's not much hockey over here. So my hockey coach at the time at Syracuse was like, he's an older man and he's amazing. He goes, well, Kristen, why don't you try rowing or something? And I was like, okay, coach, I will. So I called, yeah, so random. I called Erin, who is now my boss and it was her first year coaching at University of North Carolina. She graduated here as well. Called her, we got on a phone call. She's like, I don't really know what I'm taking on with this team, but you seem like a very mature athlete. I think like no matter what your leadership skills, your athleticism, let's just get you here and get you to try this thing out because I think you're going to be good. And I was like, hey, one person believes in me, so let's do it. And so I pretty much get to North Carolina, do like all the school stuff because that was the priority at the time. And meet with Erin, start on the erg, the rowing machine a little bit. And it's like going well. I have a lot to learn. And then we get on the water. And I am not kidding you. Did you know those boats row backwards? Because I didn't. I sat the wrong way the first time. Like, I am not kidding you. I had no idea. So
that's awesome.
I'll never forget. And the girl that was sitting in front of me, what is now one of my really good friends, we talk about it all the time. She's like, you were just like sitting backwards. And anyway.
It's awesome.
But let's talk about that. Like, you should probably do a little bit of research if you're going to try a new sport. I was just like, I'll figure it out, which I did. But like, I would have done that a little differently.
What was the early morning rowing sessions like in your mind? Like the first time you got to experience? I've seen those a ton of times when I was at UVA, watching Kevin Sauer's group. Get in. We're in there doing stuff, and it's like 6 a.m. and they're finishing, like they're done, and I'm like, what?
Definitely
start.
Yeah, lots of early mornings, and mostly like, especially for the water, you want the water to be as flat as possible. So that really helps when it's early. But even erg sessions, early mornings, I would go into this. At the time, it was a gym. Now we have a really nice erg room, but I'd go into this gym, and there's like music blaring at 5:30, and all the girls are stretching, and I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna join in. Like, I'm just gonna do it. So very different like culture than hockey. So here I was thinking like, okay, I'm a great athlete. I'm a leader. This is going to be like, easy enough to go and fit in and figure it out. And in some aspects it was, but in some aspects I had no idea what I was getting myself into.
Well, if you don't know the sport, I can completely understand that. That's understandable. I'll say that.
It was something.
Yeah, that is great. So, what was your first race like? The first time you actually got in a boat and had to go, where was it at, and what was your mental kind of makeup at that point?
So even before my first race on the water, we did a 2K on the erg, which is a very like common test to see where people are at, and that was my very first 2K. It was on slides, so it's a little bit different, but.
And in order to give people an understanding that might be listening or watching,
yes,
if you think of your rowing machine that you see at the gym,
or
that's essentially what she's talking
100%.
about.
That's the erg. The rowing machine in rowing people terms is the erg.
Correct.
So I put it on these slides to try to make it feel more like a boat, and then I did my 2K test, and it went really well. It was like the fastest time that had happened at North Carolina before. So this is my first time doing it. And Erin, my coach, was kind of like, what the heck? Who is this person? And that was kind of that moment that I'm like, maybe this can be a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know to what extent, I don't know how, I don't know all these things, but this can go well. So from there, people were kind of looking at me like I was crazy, but I just kept working really hard and trying, it's so technical. So there's so many, I'm just used to just go, 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 but I actually needed to like slow it down before that first real race, or else I was gonna do some crazy stuff. So that first race, actually, funny you say that, was at UVA.
Okay.
And so it wasn't a normal race is 2 kilometers. It's 2K pretty much always, especially in the spring. But in the fall, they do a longer race, and it's 4 kilometers, and there's like a turn in it, and it's just a little bit different. But I was in the top boat at the time because I'd been going so fast on the erg. So I get into this boat and I'm like, yeah, this is going to be great. And I am going as hard as possible, the whole time. And we're going pretty fast, like faster than North Carolina had before. So I'm like, okay, this is good. This is good. And then I catch a crab. Okay. And that means my oar pretty much goes all the way under the water. The whole boat stops because of me. And I didn't even have enough breath to say sorry to my teammates. But
You just made a good sorry Canada-wise on that saying right there. That was good.
That was very Canada. You're right. I didn't even have enough breath to say that, but I was just like, okay, let's just keep going. We still did fine, but that was my first race experience.
Wow. Hey, okay, we're going to take a break, and right after the break, we are going to get in, because I want to talk about the similarities and the differences between hockey and rowing, and plus we got to talk about Paris a little bit too. You are listening to Just a Cup on Believe. Hey, make sure you like, subscribe, and share. We're on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and on the Believe Network, really anywhere you can get your podcast from. And this episode is brought to you in part by Sports Business Leaders. It's the most active and biggest community in the Northwest Corridor, where sports innovators connect, network, share ideas, collaborate with ecosystems of champions to drive a global change. It's Sports Business Leaders, SBL for short. Check them out at sportsbusinessleaders.com, and we'll leave the section in there to be able to find out where it's at. Hey, so now we're shifting back. Now we're Kristen this is next level stuff when you're talking about going from being a Division I hockey player to never picking up an oar before, getting in a boat, and then, oh, by the way, you're gonna be an Olympian. So when you start thinking about the commonalities between hockey and rowing, are there any?
Oh yeah, I feel like even all the sports that I've done, and most specifically, I can obviously compare these two, but the teamwork and team cohesion and culture that needs to be cultivated in these sports is incredible.
Gotcha.
Like in hockey, you have your line mates that need to know every single play. They need to know where you're going to be. They need to know who you're going to be passing to. And then you have in rowing, like your teammates in the boat, they need to be in synchronous, like to a T with you. So realistically, it's like these people need to know a lot about you as an athlete, but it really helps when they know a lot about you as a human and can fully buy in to trust you and and you could trust them too, right? That's huge.
That's really interesting. My initial thought, I was thinking about the leg strength, because in hockey, you've got to have some pretty serious leg strength to be able to skate as much as you do, and you're going for those short bursts. I mean,
for sure.
Hockey is not a sport where you play for an hour long straight.
Exactly.
To do something. It's short, explosive bursts, where rowing, from what I understand, has a lot of that short, explosive bursts. But then at the same time, you have to have some incredible leg and low back strength, which kind of, I would think, translates with hockey as well. Am I wrong?
Endurance.
Yes.
That was probably the biggest, similarities totally in the legs. Like both of these sports are so lower body dominated. And then of course you need to have the upper body and core strength to support both of those things. But the difference in fitness in terms of like those short and really fast bursts in hockey 30-second shifts or 45-second shifts. Maybe a minute and a half if you get stuck out there on defense, but you hope not. But like then you're going to a 2K, which is like six to 7 to 8 minutes long. And you're going as hard as you can. You're pumping your legs as hard as you can. Your heart is pumping as hard as you can. So the difference between that game and race is also very interesting. So many similarities, but also a lot of cool differences.
Okay. I'm going to give you 5 questions.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Give me one word or really short answers. The first thing that comes to your mind, I'm just going to rattle these off. Okay. Face off.
Get low.
Coaching.
Hard.
Erg.
Harder.
You in?
Yes.
Paris.
Undescribable.
Those are pretty good. Which leads us right into talking a little more about Paris, which you just said is undescribable. Obviously, an iconic city. You know, my wife would love to go there. I'm not really a fan of Paris, but that's, you know, that's the city more than the experience. But making the Olympic team, and I read that quote, you know, UN from the world, you know, when you with the World Cup, that you got kind of basically in the boat, like you're ready to go.
Yeah.
What emotions inside when you finally make the team? You make the shift, you make the team, you are now on the Olympic team, and now it's your time.
Yeah.
How's that emotional roller coaster?
Well, I also have some sidetracks to that because yes, I made the Olympic team, but I was the spare for the 8 that won silver, which is absolutely amazing. So like when I know for sure that I'm going to the Olympics, like best day of my life, but the capacity I'm going in, I'm like, oh, really as a spare. So it's like, how can something be such a high and feel like a low at the same time? So I'll never forget the emotions of that day because it was like up and down. I'm going to Paris. This is amazing. I get to be this support person for the team. If anything goes on, I am that person. But I'd love to be 100% in that boat all the time. So yeah, emotions all over for sure.
That is an emotional roller coaster for sure.
For sure. And then like what you said about World Cups, which was one of my big kind of lead-ins to making that team. One of my teammates got sick the night before a race, and I found out that morning that I was going to be racing, and we ended up winning the whole thing for, I think, the first time ever.
That's what it said.
That's
amazing.
It was amazing. It was really, really special. And at that time, that was very close to the Olympics. So I was like, you know what? Maybe I've proven all I need to prove, and this is it. And again, just felt like it was this far short of being, you know, having that seat in the boat. But the opportunities that I got from the Olympics and everything that kind of encompassed that experience was amazing.
You got some gear on right now, some Team Canada gear. What's that like? I mean, the gear, athletes talk about the gear that you get from the country and what you have over there. What is that your favorite piece you got on, or is there something that was when you opened up the kit, when you got the kit?
Yeah. I think like the moment of when we arrived in Paris and we all got these big Lululemon suitcases, and I think that just was like the moment where it felt very real. Not only because yes, you get to wear this and represent your country, but these are all like tangible things that I'm bringing home with me.
Sure.
So of course that experience and all those moments never leave my mind, but like I get to represent and wear this specific clothing all the time that will remind me of these experiences. And each outfit kind of like, there's an outfit for opening ceremonies, there's an outfit for closing. And those outfits all come with very specific memories.
Sure.
So that kind of was really fun, a really fun aspect of it for sure.
How has the Olympics changed you?
I think the Olympics in general has taught me that, like, well, no matter what you want to do, you can achieve it. And I've always been a believer in that, but I think I actually proved that to myself. But also, the Olympics, the capacity that I went to the Olympics in proved to me that there's always someone better, and you just have to keep trying to be better.
Wow.
That sounds like so funny. And those aren't like my quotes of my life. Those are just like learnings from the Olympics.
What was your favorite moment in the Olympics?
I think, like, this is crazy because I could get emotional thinking about it. But
You like that?
I'm watching, right, from the sidelines. Well, I had a race. First of all, the day before Olympic racing started, I got to race in the single. And this is probably my second favorite moment. But most Olympic spares race their single. It's very quiet. They're testing, like, the start system. They're testing all the things. And it's quiet. There's nobody really there. Well, every single one of my teammates decided to stay, and they, like, took a later bus and all these things so that they can scream for me every step of the way.
That's amazing.
And, like, obviously, like, my coaches, the support staff, everybody was there. And, like, I felt so supported by the people that I had been supporting. So it just really felt like a come together moment for me, that I was like, I just raced down the Olympic course in a single, which is not my specialty. So that adds a little bit of nerves. And then I could just hear the voices of these girls that have taught me how to row, been my biggest supporters, my mentors, and now are my best friends. I could just hear them screaming. Like, that was really special. But then the moment that would, of course, top that is I was actually in the stands watching. There's like a athlete stand. So I was in the stands watching the Olympic final, and my parents were close. And the moment that they crossed the line, and I just remember one of my teammates, like, falling down in the boat because she was so tired. And I just, like, remember little parts of it. They went and got their medals, and that was, like, amazing. I was, like, crying in the stands watching them. But the moment when they all came from the podium over, myself and my coach were there, and, like, the girls just sprinted to us. And, like, the hugs that I got from, like, those girls that had been mentors to me just felt like, wow, what a full circle moment. And there's nothing they deserved more. And, like, I was a part of that.
You mentioned earlier the teamwork, the camaraderie, and that's right. What you just said is evidence with a stamp. That's what it is.
Yeah. And it's a feeling of, like, they have these massive silver medals dangling around their neck. And yes, they come give me a hug, and the first thing they do is put it around mine.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was like, and I just remember being like, no, that's yours. They're like, it's just as much yours. And that's a fun fact about rowing, is a spare doesn't get a medal.
Interesting. That's odd.
Yeah, because in some sports, like, the trainer gets a medal, like, everyone kind of. But honestly, of course I would love a medal, but it just makes me want to go back and get my own in gold too.
So then what's next?
Well, I'm currently coaching at UNC, where I learned to row and all that fun stuff, which has been absolutely amazing experience. But I'm going to go back and train full time pretty soon here, and hopefully world championships all the way up to LA 2028.
That would be special, being able to compete in LA, being so close to Canada.
Oh yeah.
And the camaraderie and just the experience, I think would be absolutely amazing.
Yeah. So there's a long time between now and then, but now I know how to row. I still have a lot of work to do, but I've got the basics. So it's a better start than last quad.
That's a great way to frame it. Well, I'll let you get out on this one. And I'm pretty sure that you're going to give me an answer that is going to make me shake my head. What advice would you give to the younger Kristen? for what you've become now or where you want to get to?
Gosh, I could tell myself so many things. I think it seems a little bit basic, but trust the process. Because if I wouldn't have trusted the fact that I should start rowing, I wouldn't be sitting here as a coach, had gone to the Olympics, made a bunch of new friends, learned a bunch about myself. So just trust that process, whatever it may be. It'll get you to where you want to go.
Such a true statement. And that's a very coach statement, by the way.
Yeah, I guess that's why I'm a coach now.
That's a very coach statement. Yeah, that's so true. I mean, the process takes a while. Your process got, hit on a bullet train, I think, for part of it, but then you get to see that and you got to get the shift on. I think the words of wisdom and just your experience that you can relate to the young ladies, because rowing or crew, depending on where you're at, the verbiage is a little different.
Yeah.
But it's not the commonplace sport necessarily that a basketball is, or a softball is, or a volleyball is. It's very niche.
For
And
sure.
it's specific because you can have water to row on.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think the story of the encouragement of you doing something, I would venture to say most of the young ladies that don a uniform in collegiate rowing probably don't have a great amount of experience going in. I'm sure there's some that do.
Yeah.
But I just remember my time at Virginia and my time at Cal and my time at Harvard. There's a lot of folks that just picked it up kind of like you did.
Yeah.
And they were good athletes and they had grit and determination, and boom, they did it, and it kind of went on.
Yeah.
So
sure. And that's been fun even on the national team. It's like there's girls that have been doing it for a really long time, and there's girls that came from other sports, much like myself.
Right.
And so to see and work with so many people with different experiences, it teaches you a lot, for sure.
That's so amazing. I appreciate so much joining. I'm fascinated. I always try to keep it to like 30, 35 minutes because people's attention spans are pretty small.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, I could ask you questions for another couple hours. But we'll get you back on later on when the Olympics gets a little closer and after you make the team play.
You know it. And I feel very lucky to be able to share my story and, just encourage any young girl out there that's like, I don't know what I want to do. Yeah, sometimes you just got to go for it and trust that process,
Man, I love it. Kristen, thank you so much for joining us on Just a Cup. Hopefully people will share this, like it, subscribe to it, and get the word spread. How can somebody get a hold of you if they were encouraged by this?
Yeah, I think my Instagram, Kristen_Siermachesky, would be by far the best way to do so.
Awesome. Hey, Olympic rower, Kristen Siermachesky, who's a coach now down at the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill. Rower from Team Canada. Amazing episode. Hey, keep going, fans, and man, keep cheering her on. Have a great one, everybody. God bless.